Welcome everyone to Post-Crisis Chat, the world's finest edition. I'm your co-host Randy, and with me is the ever-present, ever-lovely
Bryce Williams. How we doing, everybody? Welcome back to everybody who's watched before, and if you're a first-time viewer, welcome. Please remember to like the video, and please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell button on the top there, so you get notifications the next time we upload our next episode.
Absolutely. It is such a small thing to do, but it really helps us grow the channel. If you're not a first-time viewer, we want to welcome you back. We are so thankful to have you here.
Please be advised to everybody watching that this episode is going to contain decades-old spoilers. So if you haven't caught up on those, go ahead and pause the video, read the episode or the comic we're reading today, and then come on back.
Absolutely. Today we're going to be talking about Detective Comics number 568. It is written by Joey Cavalieri, pencils by Klaus Johnson, and inks by Klaus Johnson. I want to start with this cover by Klaus Johnson. Klaus is putting like quadruple duty on this book, and I think this cover looks great. It's got Batman strung up on a freeway sign by his cape while vultures are all around him. The sign notes that the exit for Gotham is in 2 miles. The composition of this cover is phenomenal. The pencils are good, the inking and coloring are good. It just really feels grim and gritty.
It's an awesome cover. I've taken to kind of studying them before diving into the comics every time and trying to figure out what storytelling is happening in the cover and then taking a peek at it afterwards just to kind of see how it all ties in. Really great cover. I love it.
That can be a good thing to do, but also sometimes they just put a cover up to get your attention, and occasionally the cover that you see has nothing to do with what's inside. So also keep that in mind too.
Good to know going into it.
We open up on a page where the title of the story, Eerie, has been incorporated into the top of the page. This is just, to me, a really cool composition here. And as I look down the page, the art does not look as detailed as I would like. It seems once we get past the cover that Klaus pulling quadruple duty on this book is already harming the art in the book a little bit. We see a pair of people running. The narrator tells us the footsteps of the running people strike the campus road like drum beats. The drum beats are drowned out by the sound of beating wings. The wings seem to hold a shrill cry that says, "Kill, kill." For an opening, that's pretty good. It pulls me in right away.
We'll say the first time reading through this, I actually missed it. I was more caught up in the artwork of the whole thing. I'm not even sure I realized there were words on this page, but I caught them the second time, and it definitely helped that next page make a lot more sense.
I bet. Easy when you have like a full page like this where you see everything all at once to kind of miss some of the words for sure, especially there's some that aren't in the text boxes with the background, the white background. So yeah, I could see how that could happen. So then we witness a man speaking out on the campus with a large crowd around him. The crowd and the man speaking are in opposition to superheroes. Also, we get an allusion to Reagan being the president. According to the speaker, Reagan was elected to get the government out of people's lives, and the speaker wants to get superheroes out of people's lives. The art on here is a bit rough, but overall not bad. It looks like the inking took the biggest hit. We also see quite a bit of artistic shortcuts here with the crowd and a majority of the background just being blue. Now, we talked previously about the Legends crossover that was going on at the time, and this is a part of that where there was a lot of people who were just coming out against superheroes, and this is that kind of tie into that.
A lot going on in the artwork. I mean, I can see why shortcuts were made. I mean, when you're illustrating 400 individuals. I also just want to point out, guy's making a lot of sense. Guy's saying a lot of things that, to me, make a lot of sense. And that's just my first note on this whole thing is I enjoy this part of the world building, and I don't necessarily disagree with the guy, and I can tell that Batman doesn't necessarily either, which I find really intriguing.
Yeah, in fact, next we cut to Batman and Robin watching the crowd below. going on about how bad superheroes are. Robin thinks the crowd is just a pack of ingrates, and Robin says it's enough to pack up your cape and stay home. Batman counters it, says he wants to hang up his cape and stay home because it means he is no longer has to fight crime. Batman's main goal is to get rid of crime. In the final panel of the page, we get the people running from the first page, running into this crowd and screaming for help. And this is juxtaposed by the previous panel where the campus speaker was saying, people need to learn to help themselves.
Oh, it's really interesting. I didn't notice the juxtaposition. I tried to say the word. No, I didn't actually notice that. That's really cool.
I think it's interesting, and something we don't see in a lot of modern comics is pulling in the current political ideas in such an overt way. Because this guy is talking about Reagan, he's talking about people have to help themselves, government has to get out of their lives, and things like that. And while there is some more covert, more veiled mentioning of politics in current comics, you don't see anything this overt anywhere anymore. I've noticed that from a lot of the 80s comics that I read is that they're very much product of their time, where they're talking about
This issue
the
in
current
general,
world.
yeah.
Sorry.
This issue in general, totally.
Yeah.
Like it has multiple parts where I was like, that can't happen today. I think there's an unabashful use of the word Oriental later in the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Definitely a different time when this was made.
definitely. And before Marvel, or not Marvel, but the superhero industry in general was afraid to kind of take things on, it seemed, because there was a little bit of that in the last issue as well that we went through.
Yeah. And so next we see the narrator comments on how remarkable the Falcon is that is currently chasing the person running. The narrator mentions that the Falcon is twice the normal size of a normal Falcon. The bird snatches at the running man's coat and appears to try to tear it off. I think that once again, Klaus pulling quadruple duty here. It is hard to tell exactly what is happening in that panel. And then Batman leaps from the roof to chase the bird.
It took a couple of read-throughs for me. Like, I had to scan the page twice, I think, the first time to kind of figure out what exactly I was supposed to be getting from it, you know?
Sure. And I think from what I understand that Klaus Johnson is one of those artists who is considered one of the best. And I can't imagine why he would be doing all of the work on this book, pretty much except the writing. You know, and they're trying to get the book out on time. They just give all of it to him. Like, because he's just not going to have enough time to finish everything, and it really shows, I think.
Yeah, set him up for failure. Absolutely.
And then, so Batman has jumped off the roof to chase the bird, and he uses his bat rope to nab the Falcon in midair and to tie it to a nearby flagpole. Someone tells Batman to get to the National Science Building quick. The art's a little better on this page, but it still seems kind of rough, and I still think the inking is what suffers the most. That combined with the lack of detail in the background. The backgrounds are just very incredibly generic.
It feels like it's all happening in a bit of a void.
Yeah.
That would be my main feedback as well. Yeah, on this page.
And then the man tells Batman that the Natural Science Building has been broken into. Robin says he is following Batman. Batman tells Robin to get the student who was wounded medical attention. Robin whines about having to do that, and Batman informs Robin that they must always ensure the victims of crime are taken care of, and they are the most important, and they have to come first. We kind of touched on Jason, aka Robin, in the last episode where we talked about how he's kind of a whiny little brat.
I'm picking that up a lot. I know that there's multiple Robins that happen throughout the series, and I'm psyched for that. The next Robin, because this guy just complains, man.
Robin's background. Anyway, So next we cut to the science building where we see the Penguin is stealing computer disks that contain the notes on how to create these big ass birds. Penguin's henchmen are also trying to net a bird and having a tough time with it. Penguin notes that one bird has already escaped thanks to their ineptitude, which explains where the bird outside came from. The Penguin and his henchmen are also kidnapping Dr. Baird, who seems to be linked with these birds. The art on this page is a little better. We get a little more detail in the background. It's easy to tell what's happening and what the action is, so it's an improvement over the previous page, but when you look at a lot of the faces on this page, they have no detail, and that's one big thing for me is I look to people's faces in the comics because that's where so much emotion is conveyed, and when the faces are barely even there, it's kind of a letdown for me.
Yeah, again, I think it just goes back to what you've been saying about this entire issue, being on one guy's shoulders, and you see it shine through in multiple parts. There's actually one on the next page that is incredibly rough that we'll talk about, but it continues to shine through how much this one man had to do on this.
Well, let's go on to the next page then. Penguin informs Dr. Baird he is stealing the birds and research because they are valuable. But if Dr. Baird can make more birds, that means they are not as valuable as they could be. So Penguin is taking Dr. Baird too. Dr. Baird tries to get away, but Penguin stops him and tells Dr. Baird to knock it off or Penguin will hurt the birds. I actually think that's really smart and logical of Penguin. He's like, if you've got the only two or three of these birds in the world, you've got a monopoly on that, and if nobody else knows how to make them, you could probably maybe sell those birds for a lot of money, or even sell the formula for how to make them for even more money.
Top tier capitalist, Penguin. Introduce scarcity and then control the supply.
Oh, yep.
He's got it down. He's nailed it.
I mean, look at the way he's dressed. Would you expect any less from somebody in a top hat with a monocle and bow tie and, full on 3-piece suit?
He's manifesting,
He definitely is. So you said you had something you wanted to say about the art here.
That bottom right or bottom left panel on this page just stuck out to me while reading this. The really rough lines. It seems like I can't even really tell exactly what's going on the left side of the panel there.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Seems like formless shapes. Just as I was going through, I remember taking a moment on that particular panel and just being like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I do think that's the worst it gets, though, in probably this issue.
All right. Well, we move on to the next. By the way, I agree with you on everything you said about that panel. It's just
It's
bad.
so rough. It's just bad.
We move on to the next page. Inner Batman! He kicks one of the Penguin's minions while making a clever quip about Penguin getting hit. Batman grabs a hook stick and educates us that these are used for bringing falcons out of trees by looping the leather thongs on their legs. I've actually seen those used at Ren Fair, and it's not quite as bad on the birds as you would think when he kind of describes it that way. The art here is decent. Batman's anatomy in that big center panel is a little wonky. Overall, not bad.
Seems like an improvement. Like he finished the last page at the end of the previous day, and he started this page fresh the next morning or something. It just seems better all around. I will say that this page, the story, was another one I had to read a couple of times because it feels really disjointed. Batman shows up, he starts talking about traffic, and then a guy gets kicked, and it was a little disjointed is the best way I can describe it. And then we're on to the Falcon sticks. And
Yeah.
it was kind of all over the place.
On the next page, Batman is using the stick as a bow staff. He seems to knock out all of the Penguin's minions with it. Those guys seem not all that talented. I'm not sure why Penguin hired them in the first place. Maybe beggars can't be choosers.
They're getting whooped. Maybe they're just bird wranglers, Maybe they're not even really henchmen. They just answered a Craigslist ad for handling large birds.
Yeah, well, or Penguin hired them from a temp agency. Would you like to go work for a supervillain? It pays really well. I mean, you could die, but you know, if you survive, you'll make a lot of money. Maybe if
Probably
Batman
pretty good
doesn't get you.
benefits, if they're getting their butts kicked this often. They probably need good medical, you
Yeah.
know?
Penguin grabs Dr. Baird and uses him as a hostage to get out of the room. And the art on this page is a little rough, but for the most part, the faces look okay. I do have to say the coloring on this page, in my opinion, is exceptional. I also kind of like the way that in that second panel on the page that Batman's kind of breaking the panel a little bit, and you see his back and ears up on the next part of the panel. I like that when the artists don't just keep themselves constrained to the panel. I think it adds a bit to the overall.
It's the overall vibe. I mean, I didn't even notice it the first time, but that is a really cool little detail to kind of throw in there.
The overall
And I just love
composition
how
was
he's
the
all
word I was looking
dope.
for. And if you notice, they do
I
it at the
forget what.
bottom too, where Penguin and his hostage are kind of stepping out
Oh
of the
yeah,
panel a little bit. It almost gives it like motion where he's like backing away from the scene.
yeah. I do like the art for this page. I think there's a couple of strong pieces here between the fight and some of the close-ups on the penguin as well.
I agree. Next, we cut back to the Batcave with the famous giant dinosaur in the background. Robin laments that Batman is keeping him out of the loop and makes a pretty bad joke. Batman says he thinks he's learned enough about birds of prey to know where the birds would want to be, and Robin cracks another bad joke. I'm beginning to see why the vote went the way it did. Sorry about that, Bryce. Spoilers for later on.
Oh, you're fine.
The art on this one's not bad. It's easy to tell what's going on. Oh, and one thing I was going to say, when you're talking about you had to read the page before a couple of times, if you're not used to the way comic books work, um, kind of like that negative space where they don't show things and you have to kind of fill it in on your own, um, that can be a challenge to reading comics that I don't think I've ever realized that anybody had, because when I started reading comics when I was just like 10 or 11 years old, I just sat there and read through them, and I was poor, so I could only afford like one comic a month. And so yeah, I read that comic over and over and over again, so I kind of learned how to read comics. And I was reading on Reddit earlier this week where somebody was like, said exactly what you said. It's hard to tell what's going on. And I realized that as a new comic book reader, you don't maybe have the skills or ability yet to understand exactly what the comic is doing and how you have to kind of fill in that dead space on your own, what happened in between these two panels. So it's interesting. I hadn't
That
thought of
was
it
a
before.
yeah, a challenge for me, and it sounds like it becomes more intuitive with time with just reading more comics. But I mean, just even here, right, and the pages we just were reading, it just says until we meet again, and then there's an obvious time hop, right? But it might take a newer reader a second to be like, oh, okay, we're jumping ahead now.
Exactly. And that's what
Totally,
the guy on
something that's
Reddit was
happening.
talking about, was exactly that situation. Is there's nothing aside from the images changing, there's nothing to really indicate why we were here and now we're over here. Fans of Batman who've been reading Batman for 30 or 40 years would see the dinosaur and go, oh, okay, we know that's the Batcave because there's always a giant dinosaur in the background of the Batcave. But,
Mhm.
somebody who's
Yeah, I
new
was
or
just
just
like,
reading for the
why is
first
there
time.
a dinosaur? Like, it confused me quite a bit.
I don't know that I've ever read that story. I want to say it was one of the Golden Age stories from like the 1940s where he got the giant dinosaur for some reason. And those Golden
It's
Age
just always
stories, it's like every comic is like reading a novel, because I'm pretty sure the writers back then got paid per word.
been okay. Just all words.
Yes, they will show something in the panel, and then there will be two paragraphs of text telling you what's happening in the panel. That's the golden
Love
age.
it.
So anyway, next we cut to Penguin looking for his new birds inside their cage. He asks if anyone has heard about his ransom demand. Penguin seems to believe he will get a lot of money from the Arab Sheik Fund of Dr. Baird's, since the Sheik paid for Dr. Baird's endowment to study the birds. Yeah, I have to say the art on the birds is really good. I
I I think it's hit or miss, kind of in certain ways. The birds are great. They kind of phoned it in on the twirling baton a little bit on the bottom right there. Honestly,
mm-hmm.
that bottom right panel in general, it's another one of those kind of rough panels.
Yeah.
It's just the coloring's a little, I don't want to call it lazy, but I feel like
No,
it
it
could have
is.
been. Is it okay? I don't want to offend the guy. And then yeah, just that swirling baton really stuck out to me, or baton or cane, whatever he's holding there.
His
It just
umbrella.
looks
He's
like magic
twirling his
marker.
umbrella,
Oh,
which
his
I think
umbrella. There we
which I think was just a trick so the artist had to draw less.
go.
And on the coloring aspect that you're talking about, yeah, it's when you first look at those candles, you kind of really have to study that for a minute to understand what exactly the fact that they're candles. Like there's no contrast. Normally you would expect maybe some yellow and some orange and maybe some colors in between, and no, it's just a bright yellow that's not even the color of flame.
Yeah, and it just has like defined borders. It was an odd choice for sure artistically.
It's a shortcut is really all it is.
Yeah.
Next, we see Batman locating the Falcons on top of a skyscraper, and then Batman spots Penguin out for a moonlit stroll.
Probably my favorite artwork panel by far so far. This one I think is beautiful. Weird anatomy going on with Batman, but I love the background cityscape. I think the like bust of him on the bottom is really well done. I enjoy this whole page.
And it's funny because my call out, you're right, the background of this is really good. It gives you a sense of
The
what
building
Gotham looks
sets.
like. And then that anatomy on Batman is just.
That anatomy's weird. I don't know what angle he's coming in on there. It's
It looks
super
like
weird.
it looks like he's broken his back and turned his bottom half upside down.
It almost gives me the impression that he's swinging away from it and looking backwards,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
right? But it's just not a very clear angle, and it sure as hell doesn't look comfortable. I can tell you that much.
We move on to the next page, and Batman jumps across the roof to get the penguin, but discovers that this penguin was a decoy, and a trap door opens, dumping Batman in with the birds. An alarm goes off, and Penguin says Batman has taken the bait. So Batman is supposed to be the greatest detective in the world. Well, aside from Detective Chimp. And he didn't realize that this penguin was not moving, not breathing, not twirling his umbrella.
I thought it was really funny that he got trapped. I think I just have a thing for that now. I'm gonna just love every time he falls for something. I mean, if you can pull something off on Batman, you've done well.
I suppose
So
that's
well
true.
done, Penguin. You know,
And I'm going to point out, too, the birds on this panel are great looking. Like, dude has bird anatomy down. And the inks on the birds are great. The coloring is great. He must like birds. He must like drawing birds more than he does Penguin's face.
I also really like what he did with Batman's cape as he's dropping down. I think that's a really cool artistic choice to have it
Oh,
just
yeah, because
extend
it's kind of
up
like
and out of the frame.
twirling and yeah, that is
Yeah,
cool.
I just something I noticed.
Penguin welcomes Batman to the trap. Inside the building, Dr. Baird has gotten a hold of a knife and is trying to free himself from being tied up. The birds seem to be scratching at Batman as he pulls something out of his utility belt. Where does he get those wonderful toys? The art on this page seems a little off with lots of dark blank space and is very light on details. Not the worst, but we've certainly seen better.
Yeah, I would say this is a pretty average page for this issue. There's worse, there's better. nothing too memorable artwork wise.
And then next, Batman plays a recording for the Falcons that signals danger in the language of Falcons. The screeching causes the birds to flee. Meanwhile, Dr. Baird has escaped his bonds and is going after the Falcon lure in Penguin's back pocket. Penguin laments that his Falcons have turned chicken and orders his men to get Batman. Batman notices Dr. Baird has a plan in mind. Yeah, I laughed out loud about the Falcons have turned chicken joke. It's terrible. The joke's being made by Penguin, but
But it works.
it does, and it's still funny. It
It
made
does
me laugh
work.
even now.
A lot of great artwork on this page. It seems like everything was just he just took a little bit more time with everything. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't say
agree.
anything super memorable, but just it's filled out, it's detailed, we got backgrounds. It's awesome.
Yeah, this is probably the best page of the book we've seen so far in terms of artwork. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hadn't really noticed that, but you're absolutely right. Like Penguin's face actually has some details and a little bit of shading, and the
Yeah, just
Batman in the panel below it looks great.
I can't think of any page so far that had just this many backgrounds. It's mainly what I'm looking for at this point. It's
Yeah.
just not to be in a void.
A lot of the times, the artist kind of had to draw the book in a void, and they didn't necessarily know how much space the words were going to take up on the page. So sometimes when we don't get a lot of background, when we do get a lot of open, empty space, that is the artist leaving room for the word bubbles so that, they're not working on a bunch of detail that's just going to get covered up. That may be why we see so many lack of backgrounds in this. Don't know for sure, but it could have just been, like I say, Klaus pulling quadruple duty. But that may be why some of that exists that I didn't think about until just now.
As I flip back through some of the more barren panels did have quite a bit of text going on with them. So that could absolutely be the case. That could totally be what's going on here.
Batman helps with the plan by letting the birds out of the cage. Penguin is upset that the birds are out and they might get away, but doesn't realize that Dr. Baird is actually calling the birds in Penguin's direction. A
I
decent
love
art on
that.
this one.
Again, yeah, just you could see some shortcuts like in the top middle panel. He stopped doing the scaffolding towards the bottom. Feels a little rushed with the background, but again, it's another one of those pages that I could tell took time. Penguin's face, just Penguin in general in the top right could probably use some work, but there's enough here for me to like what I see.
Dr. Baird sticks the Falcon lure in Penguin's back pocket and the Falcons start chasing him. Penguin demands that his minions get the birds off him. The same incompetent minions who let the birds go in the first place, who just rolled over for Batman, somehow feel like they're not going to be of that much help.
I agree. They haven't really been employees of the month so far.
Yeah, you're right about that. So on the next page, we get Batman beating up Penguin's minions while Penguin is back inside calling for help. I kind of like the way Batman is swinging into the panel on this particular page in that second panel down. This pose and the cape and everything remind me a lot of the original, like the very in the beginning when Batman first debuted. This looks like a very similar pose to what he had in some of those really early comics, and the cape especially with the parts that stick down, and it actually looks like bat wings.
Ragged edges.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I also really like just kind of the bluescape background that's been going on the past two pages. I just think it's beautiful. I think it's a great way to kind of provide some light detail without distracting from what's going on with the story.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it does look good. So Batman uses a net to capture the Falcons to get them off Penguin. The art on this page does seem a little more rushed. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. Again, a lot of solid black in place of details, which, not my favorite. But again, I think they just gave him too much work for one issue. on a
It
deadline
was an
anyway.
issue.
Yeah. So then on the next page, Penguin tries to escape, but Batman uses another net to capture Penguin and drag him away. And then we cut to the next morning where Bruce is watching TV with Jason, who is AKA Robin. There's a pundit on television railing against superheroes, reminding us that this is part of the Legends crossover. We do find out that this pundit is actually Godfrey, who is not on model compared with what he looks like in the actual Legends series. I've discovered in a lot of these crossovers from the 80s, there are a lot of inconsistencies like that. I've been recently reading the Invasion crossover from 1989, and there's a story that directly crosses over between an issue of The Flash and an issue of Manhunter. And we see the same plane in both issues, and it looks completely different in The Flash. In The Flash, the plane is prop driven. In Manhunter, the plane has jet engines. I suspect that there was a lot less communication between the artists in the 80s as opposed to what we have now in the age of video calling. It's all just an interesting aside to me. I'm not deducting any points for things looking different here. But, it kind of tells you what the history is like, and people really just didn't communicate that much, probably because they didn't really have time.
Absolutely. I mean, just probably the art of storytelling has evolved. People care more about consistency across multiverses, which have picked up in the past 10, 15 years. Everything's a multiverse now. But yeah, this panel tied it together for me. I said in the beginning that the guy was making a lot of sense, and this is Batman agreeing
Hmm.
and saying, I think the common man can triumph on his own without me, but maybe it's better that I'm there to help.
Yep, I was going to say, Batman tells Jason he thinks Dr. Bear did a fine job last night, even though he wasn't a superhero. And this might be a good time to also remember that Batman's only superpower is money. He
Yeah.
has no other powers beyond a regular person, which is actually one of the reasons he's one of my favorite characters. I admire the fact that he is willing to go out and change the world with nothing but himself. He's not invulnerable. He's not he's just a normal human being with a lot of money. And in most cases, he even uses that money in very positive ways in his community, and he gives back to the community, and he helps out a lot.
Those are the real superheroes right there. Those are the real
Absolutely.
ones.
So overall, I think this issue wasn't bad. I think it's a solid introduction to the Penguin for you, Bryce, since you're not familiar with the comics. Sometimes the fact that Klaus Johnson was pulling quadruple duty in the issue did contribute to rushed pages, and in a lot of cases, lack of detail. But overall, it wasn't too distracting. The rough art didn't take me out of the story. And in fact, when you're dealing with kind of a pulpy hero like Batman, some rough art is to be expected, I think.
It didn't pull me out of the story at all. If anything, it got me looking closer at some of those panels because I was trying to figure out what was going on, right? So if anything, it got me more enthralled. Overall, I think the message of it was really its strength, right? Like what it was trying to say about the common man, and obviously with the Legends crossover and everything. Really strong one so far. I mean, I'm only a couple in, but I do think I like that one better than the Magpie
Yeah, I
issue.
agree.
Yeah,
This is the better of the two issues. I did think
totally.
the story itself was a little basic. It's okay since we're basically kind of establishing the status quo for Batman here. Since we are post crisis and we at this time aren't 100% sure, the universe is still getting its feet. The crisis itself was when they got done with it, the whole purpose was so people could come into these comics new and fresh as new readers to gain more readers. So it did a good job of establishing the status quo. And actually, kind of what you were alluding to earlier with the Legends crossover stuff and Godfrey doing all of his talking and pundit stuff, I thought those were actually really well done. And if you read the Legends crossover, you can kind of see the consistency there is actually really good.
Awesome. I'm excited. I mean, I'm reading what I can. Thanks to Randy here. I've got a whole bookshelf full of comic books, including the one that we're reading right now. So thank you very much for that, Randy. I'm hoping to
Oh, for
catch
sure.
up and learn some more about all this.
So overall, I'm going to give this issue a 2.75 out of 5 genetically mutated falcons. What do you think, Bryce?
I'm gonna bump it up half a point to a 3, just because again I really cared for that message. I don't know that you always get something that potent in a comic book. I haven't experienced that many. I did like the message, so it's gonna go up to a 3. I'm gonna give it a separate artwork score of 2. Like, separate the story from the artwork. I'd like to see better artwork moving forward from our boys.
That's one thing that I'm really excited about. The main reason that I'm having Bryce read a lot of these early stories is so we can kind of get that build up to Batman Year One. And I think Batman Year One being one of the favorite Batman comics that's ever been created. It's going to be interesting to see. You get to see that progression from the very basic stories to when we get to Batman Year One. It's very intricate, it's very detailed, and the art is not my favorite, but it's definitely, in my opinion, better than this.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see how the art style changes too as time goes on, because I know that with a story going on this long, right, you're going to get different versions of Batman and artists and styles. That's something I'm looking forward to quite a bit.
I do want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We are really glad that you're here with us watching. We do this for the love of the comics medium, and I think it's really cool that everybody's going to get to see Bryce kind of discovering that comics medium as a new reader.
Thank you so much. And I implore you guys to check out our Patreon, where we have our post crisis chat book club for our members. We let our patrons get their say on the book, and we'll read some of the comments on the channel when we record. You can also find us on Blue Sky in the link in the description.
And also, don't forget to check the description for links to our Amazon affiliate page. You can pick up the book that we're reading tonight in the DC Finest format. Bryce, you want to hold that up for a second?
Absolutely. Oh.
Yes, you can have that volume in your hands that Bryce is holding up right now. On the offhand chance, this volume actually does sell out really quick, but it always gets restocked within a month of it selling out. So if you don't see it there right now, check back in about a month and they should have copies. And if you click that Amazon affiliate link down in the description to make the purchase, a little bit of your purchase comes back to the channel and it doesn't cost you anything extra. It allows us to do things like upgrade cameras, upgrade microphones, all that kind of stuff.
Turn this hobby into a little bit smaller of an expense. Going back to Blue Sky, if you follow us over there or any of our other socials, the link in the description, we'll be announcing when we post new episodes. Also, if you could like this video, give this channel a subscribe, hit that notification button on the right-hand side. All those things go a long way to making this a success and helping out the channel. It is greatly appreciated.
For sure. We don't have a sign-off phrase.
uh,
I'm willing to take suggestions.
I said something last time. I can't remember.
It's not same bat time, same bat channel, because that version of Batman is whack. I'm not a fan of 60s Batman.
Okay. Not the same bat channel. No. Thanks for joining us in post crisis chat.
You know what?
Said something.
Let's. Okay, hold on. So I got something with. May your superhero come with a lot of money.
Okay, I
that
like
was terrible. All right, but that's what we got for now. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.